Hey guys, welcome back to Investing Tutorial. Friends, just a few days ago, I was reading a report from 2022 created by a famous investment banking company. This report stated that the bottom 50% of people in the world own only 1.2% of the world's wealth, and the bottom 85% own only 15% of the wealth. On the other hand, the top 15% of people own 85% of the world's wealth. This means that 15% of people have 85% of the world's money, while the majority 85% have only 15% of the money. Friends, this is not a new thing. About 100 years ago, an economist named Vilfredo Pareto identified that the top 20% of wealthy people in his country, Italy, owned 80% of the country's wealth, while the bottom 80% owned only 20% of the wealth. Now this has become even more extreme, changing from 80/20ths to 85/15ths. This is also known as the power law of distribution, where a person who works a little harder than others gets a much bigger reward than they can imagine. This is why very rich people haven't worked extremely hard, just a little extra compared to others. This means that life is not fair, and neither are life's rewards. Now, friends, you can either be sad about this or use this knowledge to your advantage. Today, we will talk about why some people keep getting richer and reach $1 billion net worth, while the majority cannot even achieve financial freedom. No doubt, the power of compounding plays a significant role, as I have discussed many times in my previous videos. But Jim Rohn once said that if you gather all the money in the world and distribute it equally among all the people, in a few years, the rich will have most of the money again. This tells us that even if you start from zero, there are other reasons besides the power of compounding that make people rich, which we will discuss in today's video. So friends, in today's video, we will touch on some very important topics that no one has paid much attention to before. We will discuss the 5 important rules of wealth creation. So if possible, grab a notebook and a pen and start writing, because you might not find such lessons explained so clearly in simple language anywhere else on the internet. So let's get started. Friends, there is a lot of poverty in Africa, and there are many problems. But today we will talk about a very interesting problem that you might not have thought about. It is the life expectancy in Africa, which means the average age at which people die, which is 64 years. On the other hand, the life expectancy in the USA is 76 years, and in Europe, it is 80 years. Many businessmen, scientists, and CEOs in the USA live, stay fit, and work even at the age of 70, 80, and 90. For example, let's talk about Warren Buffett. We know him. He is currently over 90 years old and still works with the same energy as a 30-year-old. The only difference is that he is very experienced, knowledgeable, and smart, and he has many important network and contacts, along with their brilliant reputation. All these things are compounding, and they have a net worth of $130 billion US. They manage $1 billion company, which they will grow even more in the coming years. This will make their investors and their country even richer. You won't find anyone like that in Africa because people there can't live that long. The water is polluted, there are many diseases, healthy food is not readily available, and there are many such problems. When businessmen like Warren Buffett reach the age of 50 to 60 and have a net worth of $1 billion US, they can easily reach $100 billion because, as we know, they have knowledge, reputation, and people in that country live longer. But if we look at another country like Africa, there won't be any businessman who can take their net worth from $1 billion to $100 billion because the life expectancy there is 64 years. People die at an average age of 60 to 70 years. So you would need 100 or 200 successful businessmen whose total net worth would be $100 billion. The work that 100 or 130 successful billionaires do together for their country, Warren Buffett did alone for the U.S. By creating such a large amount of wealth, they make big donations to colleges and hospitals, which keeps people healthier and living longer. For example, John D. Rockefeller made a donation of $80 million to a small college 100 years ago, which is equivalent to $2.4 billion today. Because of this, that small college is now famous as the University of Chicago, so the people in the surrounding city will get a better education, grow bigger businesses, and the people of that country will become richer. If you observe, rich countries are getting richer, and rich people are becoming even richer. That's why I said that the rule of the Pareto principle will become more extreme. So the question arises, what can we middle-class people learn from this? It is that in a middle-class family, if the only earning person, the father, falls ill at the age of 45 or 50, or cannot work for some reason, the son of that family will face a different level of pressure. He will have to get good marks in college because the whole family is dependent on him. If he doesn't pass, he might not be able to afford the college fees next year and won't get a good education. On the other hand, not only the son of a rich businessman, but also his grandson can complete his education without any worries from a good college and settle comfortably in his career. The rich businessman might still be fit and healthy at the age of 70 or 80, running and growing his business. The middle-class child won't inherit any wealth from his father because his father doesn't have any wealth. So on one hand, the middle-class child doesn't get a proper education and has to take care of his parents. On the other hand, the rich child gets a proper education and inherits a lot of wealth from his parents. This is obviously very unfair, but that's the rule of nature. So the first rule for us is that the longer and more successful your life is, the more you will benefit yourself, your family, and your country. Now, friends, let's talk about Elon Musk, who is currently ranked #1 among the richest people in the world with a wealth of $215 billion US. Now let's understand his salary. Elon Musk's salary $1 is per year, meaning he only takes for working the whole year. Hearing this, many questions might arise in your mind about why he works for such a low salary and how he manages his daily expenses. The answer to the first question is that when your salary, income, is $1, how much income tax will you pay? Obviously, the answer is 0. So even though he is the richest person in the world, he didn't pay a single dollar in tax in 2018. Instead of a salary, he gets stocks from his company, with some conditions that he can sell his shares after a few years, like 4 to 5 years, when they double or triple in value. This means he automatically becomes a long-term investor in his company. Now let's talk about the second question. Where does he get money for his daily expenses? The answer is that he is much richer than many banks and can directly buy many banks. But still, he takes loans for his personal use. So why does the richest man in the world need to take loans? Most of us middle-class people take loans only when we need money and don't have any assets or wealth. In the case of Elon Musk, he takes loans against his stocks, meaning he mortgages his stocks to the bank and takes money in return, which he uses for his personal expenses. He does this because it means he doesn't need to sell a single stock, maintaining his entire wealth. By not selling stocks, he saves on taxes and maintains ownership in his company. If he sells his stocks, he would have to pay 40 to 50% in taxes, but he gets loans at 4 to 5% or even lower interest rates. His company is growing at 15 to 20% or even better rates, so technically he doesn't lose anything. On one hand, he gets new shares every year for working in the company, increasing his wealth. On the other hand, the company's share price keeps increasing because the company is growing, and he doesn't have to pay any income tax because he has no income. This is Elon Musk's master plan, which most rich people follow, giving you an idea of how rich people maximize their wealth. The biggest lesson for us here is that rich people focus entirely on growing their wealth, not their income, because wealth can generate income for you, which is passive income. This has the potential to increase to 10, 20, or even 100 times your current earnings in the future. Almost all countries have income tax, but there is no such thing as wealth tax. This is because most middle-class people, when their income grows a little, immediately increase their expenses and then pay more taxes, ultimately leaving them with very little savings to invest in their wealth. So after working their entire life, when they retire, they have no wealth or savings left and are dependent on their children. Just like every business has an income statement and a balance sheet, the income statement shows how much money the company made in a particular period, and the balance sheet shows how many assets and liabilities the company has accumulated since it started. Similarly, We have our personal balance sheet and income statement. Rich people focus only on the balance sheet, meaning building more assets and wealth, while middle-class people focus only on the income statement because they don't even know the ABCs of the balance sheet. The reason is that no one gives us proper financial education. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do it quickly and press the bell icon because I will keep bringing valuable wealth creation and investing videos for you. Like this video so that I know you are getting value from it. Now, friends, let's talk about the third rule, which is the inflation tax. Why am I calling it the inflation tax? Let's understand it. Suppose a lady has $100,000 in savings and gets 6% interest from her bank. She is very happy with it. After 1 year, she gets $6,000 in interest. Seeing this amount, she feels very good. But in her country, inflation is increasing at a rate of 6%, so she hasn't actually made any profit because her entire $6,000 profit and 100% profit is adjusted in the inflation tax. Whatever she could buy for $100,000 a year ago, now she will need Rs. $106,000 to buy the same thing. So the question arises, where did this 6% profit go? When the government prints new notes, causing inflation, the government spends the printed notes, benefiting rich businessmen and investors because they can easily increase the price of their company's products, forcing customers to buy at higher prices. Ultimately, inflation is a tax where money goes from the hands of poor people to the hands of rich people because middle class and poor people mostly hold cash or invest in places where they get a 6 to 7% return. But rich people mostly invest in stocks, which usually grow at a rate of 14 to 15%. Out of this, 7% is due to inflation, and 7% is the actual growth of their business. Since, as we discussed earlier, all the wealth of rich people is invested, inflation doesn't affect them at all. This is also a reason why the majority of people can never become rich. If you invest in places where you get a 7 to 8% return to save 10 to 20% tax, thinking it's a very safe and secure return, ultimately you are paying 100% inflation tax to rich people. Now, friends, let's come to the fourth rule. For that, you can ask any rich person or read about how they became rich. Some people will say they started a business. Some will say they started a startup. Some will say they invested in properties, or some will say they invested in the stock market or mutual funds. Then find out how long it took them to create that wealth. You will find the answer is a lot, 10 years or even more. But still, when you ask the majority of people how long they are investing for, they will say they want everything now. There are two reasons for this. The first reason is that the majority of people live paycheck to paycheck, meaning their salary runs out before the end of the month. So no matter how good an opportunity comes their way, they can't take advantage of it because they are always thinking about how to pay their next bill. The second reason is that people's mindset is not right. Imagine a middle-class person goes for a job interview at a startup. He applied for a manager role, but is offered an even better opportunity to become the CEO. However, he will get a salary of $1 per year and, in return, will receive 5% of the company's shares, which he can only sell after 5 years and only if the share price doubles. Now tell me, how many people will accept this offer? The truth is the majority of people will find this offer strange because many people don't even know that top-level executives of big companies are paid in stocks, not in cash. People will say, "Where is the salary in this?" This salary is one of the biggest reasons why people don't think long-term. Nassim Taleb wrote in his book that the 3 most addictive things in the world are drugs, carbs, and monthly salary. I don't know about drugs and carbs, but I can guarantee the monthly salary because the longer you stay in a job, the more you have to think about changing it and stepping out of your comfort zone. The last reason is compounding. Many people say they understand compounding, but actually, it is a very deep concept. Imagine a person named Sonny who doesn't understand compounding well, so he invests his money in a place where he gets a 7% return. Another person, Rocky, invests his money in a place where he gets double 14% return. Both invest $100,000. Everyone will think that Rocky should get double the return of Sonny because Rocky's rate of return is double 14% compared to 7%. But if you look at any compounding calculator, $100,000 at 7% over 30 years becomes $761,000, while at 14%, $100,000 lacked becomes $5 million. So the difference here is not just double, but 6 times. And if we add another 10 years at 7%, $100,000 becomes $1.5 million. And at 14%, $100,000 grows to $10.88 million. So now the difference is not 6 times but 12 times. Over time, this difference will keep increasing, while the entire middle class invests in places to save tax or for safety, where they get a 7 to 8% return. Rich people consistently invest in their business or stocks, where they get to keep getting richer over time. And this is something the majority of people will never understand. So friends, I will finally say that the people of the world are divided into 2 groups. One group will say that rich people should pay more taxes, that they are very greedy or selfish, that they drive expensive cars or travel in costly planes, and that instead they could feed thousands of people or give clothes to the poor, etc. On the other hand, the second group will say that rich people have worked very hard, made many sacrifices in their young age, and take a lot of risks, so they deserve their luxurious life. Now, who is right and who is wrong among these two? You tell me in the comments below. But I will just say that such arguments will always continue because many people will never be able to think long-term, as they are always thinking about their next bill, and their entire life has passed with that mindset, so they can't open their eyes to see the reality. So either you can blame nature or life and remain a victim, or you can understand this game and become an expert in it. Like every game, it may seem difficult at first, but gradually, as you start learning it, you will enjoy it and become an expert. So make sure to subscribe to this channel, Investing Tutorial, because I will keep bringing such valuable videos on money and mindset for you. And if you like this video and want to discuss some of its points with your friends, then share it with your friends and family members so that they can also get actual financial education. Because many finance content creators nowadays are teaching options trading and penny stock investing in the name of financial education. Whereas what actual financial education is, you can see for yourself. If you like the video, like it. Thank you for giving your valuable time, and goodbye.